Thank you very much, Heather. It's a very special moment for me to speak here, because in 1979, when I was born, European Parliament was elected for the first time in history by direct elections. And it is also special for me to be here because I was only 11 when my father casted a vote against Milosevic in 1990. These were the first multi-party elections. At that time, my father was an entrepreneur. In years of huge inflation, he had earned well. He could feed our family very well from the work we had in a grocery shop. We had no problems to survive very harsh times. However, his dreams for me were far greater than only the survivor. In those elections, his vote was not enough, and few other votes were not enough for Milosevic to leave. My father had resolved to join a growing non-violent movement against the regime. As a citizen of Serbia, my father stood up for democracy, peace and prosperity when the country was in bloody wars and devastating crises. Inspired by my father, I had become what we call today an active citizen. As secondary and university student, I joined countless protests that finally brought about a change. Our hopes were that democracy will bring Serbia wealth and peace for all. However, my hopes were not fulfilled. Many continued to live in fear and hunger. Financial legacy of my father would have been enough for my good life. However, his political legacy has shaped my choice to stand up for the same values of democracy, peace and prosperity. And this is how I came to OSI. Through my work, I learned that in many parts of Europe, Roma feel hunger and have no prospects for life in dignity and prosperity, even where democracy was in place for far longer time. And this is why I'm here today. Grateful for the legacy of my father, I know I'm part of a much bigger story, the story of Roma in Europe. This brought us here today. We all believe and aspire to the values that keep the European Union together. We all know that the Roma endured untold hardships for far too long, and yet the Roma restrained from any violence. Hardships that defy any moral sense, erode democratic institutions, and produce economic losses. We are all here because we have power and responsibility to change the outcome of this story. In the last few years, reality became harsher without difference. Aspirations of prosperity and peace are at stake for all of us, without any difference, men and women, Roma and non-Roma, citizens and migrants, left wing and the right wing. For many people in Europe, a chance to get a lose a job has been a reason for fear and frustration. We are facing not only financial and political, but also deep social crisis. People of Europe increasingly hate each other for God we worship, skin color we have, or way we love. Many lives of Europeans are being squeezed to a brink over which they envisage only despair and indignity. Most of the Roma live over that brink for far too long. Natalka Kudrikova was only 2 years old at the time she was attacked by neo-Nazis. The attack was supposed to mark Hitler's birthday and had provoked fear and rage of many citizens of the Czech Republic. She lost 80% of her skin and 2 fingers. A third was later amputated. Natalka spent months lying in induced coma. Many kids like Natalka live in fear, go to bed without eating. Many kids like Natalka will be placed in special schools where expectations are low and results are lower. These kids will grow up with minimal chances to get a proper job ever. For Natalka and similar kids, we don't have a luxury to stay and act in factions. factions of unexercised rights, undelivered services, and unpaid taxes. We can't continue working in the factions of the Roma decade and the Roma platform. We can't resolve urgent problems that are faced by all and forget or overlook long-standing problems faced by Roma. And we can't continue expecting others to do the job without saying what we shall do. Without forgetting about our differences, we need and can go beyond them. For the national strategies to change the status quo, from today we need to make a choice. One choice would be to continue business as usual. This would mean that today's meeting will be yet another gathering of individual agendas, and afterwards we go to our homes and offices, blaming each other for unmet expectations or praising each other for wishful illusions of progress. If we do this, we continue in the same way that has led us to the status quo. The other choice is to learn from the past and change the way we see and act upon problems. I see that there is a hope. I see that the decade has been a useful thing to do. After 6 years, we exactly know what was good and what was not so good about the decade. After 6 years, we know what works and we know what doesn't. And I say there is hope because we have an opportunity to use financial means of the Commission. It is great news that the Commission is more cautious about future funds and suggests conditionality to suspend or stop the funding for bad projects. But much more can be done. European Commission needs to create incentives for potential good projects. For example, projects on easing conditions for job creation or demand-driven education. I can take responsibility for working with my colleagues from Roma civil society to pinpoint to the Commission and the governments where the taxpayers' money doesn't make a difference and how we can do a much better job. And I say again, there is hope because there is no question anymore that Roma can contribute. I urge the governments to see national strategies on Roma not as a plan for Roma. They should see the strategies as a part of larger plans of macroeconomic recovery. We need to set strategies to utilize demography and economic potential of Roma. Let me give you an example. A study from Slovakia suggests that there is an economic opportunity of inclusion to be and to generate minimum 2.5 billion euros annually, which is about 7% of Slovakian GDP. These estimates should be our targets. After the census, in many countries, we can make these estimates and work toward them together. There is hope because Roma vote presents a significant part of our democracies and politicians know that. I can take responsibility to work with my Roma colleagues and European parties present here on education of voters and candidates about why voting matters and why citizens should not sell and buy votes. Let me finish by saying that the Roma integration is possible. I was able to study and went for a training at Harvard. There are thousands of Roma who have made similar journeys. Some of them are here with you today. And we are living examples of integration. In front of you, there are hundreds of thousands of Roma who are capable to do much better. Roma people don't expect governments to solve all the problems. But Roma people sense that deep in their hearts, that a change in the way we are treated can make sure that every child like Natalka has a decent opportunity in life, and that the doors of opportunity remain open for all. We need to use the meeting today to make a step forward and work better and harder to make this possible with our responsibility on the first place. Thank you very much.